There are few love stories in comics, and arguably literature as a whole, that are as iconic and transformative as that of Peter Parker, the sensational Spider-Man, and Mary Jane Watson. Before they were introduced in 1965, Spider-Man's stories were mostly framed as power fantasies for younger kids. But as Peter and MJ deepened their relationship over the years, the Spider-Man titles became something more nuanced and mature, exploring Peter's struggles to balance his responsibilities as a superhero with his role in a growing family. This dynamic became the bedrock of many of Spider-Man's most iconic stories, and took both characters to emotional highs and devastating lows over the years. There was also this thing with clones that lasted a while, but it's best that we don't talk about that. Still, it's no surprise that as generations of readers grew up, they started to see their own relationships reflected in these comics. Which is why many were shocked that, in 2007, leadership at Marvel Comics decided to end the relationship, which included a marriage that had been in place since 1987. In the pages of One More Day, Spider-Man editor Joe Quesada and writer J. Michael Straczynski canonized the couple's split, insisting that Peter being single is an intrinsic part of the very foundation of the world of Spider-Man. The decision was met with plenty of backlash from fans, but also creators within Marvel, namely writer Matt Fraction, who in 2007 delivered his personal love letter to the couple's history in the standalone story To Have and to Hold. The story pulls inspiration from a number of sources, but the most notable tributes come from the iconic Spider-Man Blue miniseries, another story that acts as a cross-section of Peter Parker's relationships over the years. But instead of retreading its predecessor, To Have and to Hold takes Blue's best ideas and iterates on them, crafting a timeless love story for one of the medium's most iconic couples. The lead-up to Fraction's story was a dark, complex time for the character of Spider-Man. The civil war waged between Iron Man and Captain America caused a schism among Marvel's heroes, and no character demonstrated this better than Peter Parker. Initially a strong supporter of Iron Man's initiative, Peter would eventually have a change of heart and defect to Captain America's forces, but not before revealing his most guarded secret to the public. Unfortunately, by now, the damage was done. Everyone knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and the fallout of this decision would cost both Peter and his family dearly. Spider-Man has always been a chaotic element in Peter Parker's life, with many stories charting the effects his actions have on the people closest to him. Blue primarily explores this dynamic through Peter's first relationship with Gwen Stacy, who was tragically fated to die at the hands of the Green Goblin. Coming 3 years after Blue, To Have and to Hold makes a number of tributes to its predecessor, even using a similar time-hopping structure. However, Fraction also took the opportunity to build on many of Blue's foundational ideas, namely the use of perspective. In sharp contrast to its predecessor, which had its perspective fully rooted in Peter's character, To Have and to Hold gives equal time to both Parkers, who have been shaken by Aunt May's recent injury at the hands of a hired gun. Even as MJ attempts to get some space from her situation, she's confronted by someone from her past, and is given an immediate reminder of the danger she's in.
Oh no.
Oh yeah? You think I haven't read the news the last 6 months, Mary Jane? You think I don't know who you are and who you're married to? Brady O'Brien, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Give us Peter Parker or you're under arrest.
Much like Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane has often been seen as an extension of Peter's character instead of someone with her own agency. But by using the story to separate the couple, much like Straczynski did earlier in his own run, Fraction levels a challenge at the state of the marriage, and questions, are they really meant to be together? Parallel to Mary Jane's story, Fraction gives Peter Parker a crisis of his own. Convinced that May's injury is his fault, Peter attempts to turn himself in, hopefully securing his family's safety. Guilt and self-loathing have been an ever-present part of Peter's character, augmented through Fraction's dialogue, which sways between playful and light to defeatist and blunt. While previous stories have seen Peter abandon his life as Spider-Man only to return later, this scene hints at something much deeper. He's given up.
I woke up this morning in a $2 squat out in...
Don't tell me where.
In a $2 squat, and my aunt is dying, and my wife is terrified, and I'm forcing her to live in a freaking Motel 11, and I'm sick of it. I woke up sick and ashamed and embarrassed that this is what I've done to my family. She's dying, Lamont, and I'm hiding like an animal. And she's dying, and she's still protecting me. I keep wanting to wake up, Lamont. I'm a grown man. This is no way to live.
Isolating the Parkers, Fraction does more than challenge their marriage. He recontextualizes both characters and the literal decades they've spent together, cutting right to the emotional heart of the relationship. Another element borrowed from Blue is the use of nostalgia, which is used to delineate the more colorful, idyllic past from the darkness of the present. In Blue, Peter's nostalgia leads to him romanticizing his past with Gwen, visualized through Tim Sale's bold illustrations and vibrant colors. This approach also affects the characterization of Gwen Stacy, who's framed as perfect, innocent, and tragically unattainable, with her eventual death at the Green Goblin's hands casting a shadow over even the happiest of Peter's memories of her. While Blue's explorations of love and loss are undoubtedly moving, they also present a somber, pessimistic view of love, depicting it as something short-lived and ultimately destined for pain. Interestingly, along with its flashback narrative, To Have and to Hold also borrows themes of nostalgia from its predecessor. But instead of just reminiscing about simpler times, Fraction's story actually subverts the perfection of the past. This is shown to a masterful effect in the mixtape sequence, which charts the first real steps in the couple's relationship from friends to something more. Salvador Larroca's art, usually precise and detailed, gives way to something classic and John Romita inspired. However, instead of presenting the couple as a perfect match from the start, Fraction's more down-to-earth interactions cut right through the colorful images of the art. Peter and MJ's first interactions are awkward, stilted, but also hint at a deeper connection between the characters, which Fraction explores even further by revisiting the scene from each character's perspective.
It's Missile.
Hey, I'm gonna go.
Alone. You're gonna die alone.
Kiss her, you chicken.
Mistletoe on a hat.
Yeah, there's a thing, okay? I'll talk to you later. Chicken. Stupid, boring chicken, man.
They're not in perfect sync, but there is a connection, one that Fraction argues has only grown stronger over the years. As the story deepens and the tensions in the present ratchet up, Fraction revisits another important moment in the Parkers' history, the moment they declare their feelings for one another. This moment is so much more than a bookend to the uncomfortable interactions of the mixtape sequence. It's an impassioned argument that the pair are perfect for one another, inspiring each other to overcome the darkest of demons.
Mary Jane, I'm asking you to think about this. I'm asking you to think about Peter Parker and what he's done to your life for a second. And I want you to try to imagine what Peter Parker could possibly say that would make this mess you call a life any better.
I'll be back. I swear. For you, I'll always be back.
I'll be waiting. Always and forever.
To Have and to Hold and its predecessor both make the argument that happier times can't last forever, that eventually the nostalgia of the past gives way to the struggles of the present and the uncertainty of the future. But while Blue makes the point of showing the light and happiness love can bring before tragically ripping it away, Fraction posits something else entirely. Peter and Mary Jane's relationship doesn't give them a heightened clarity. In fact, Fraction makes the point of highlighting each character's insecurities throughout the story. But it's the persistence of this love that lets them overcome their insecurities. Because no matter what, they know they'll always come back to one another.
I wasn't rambling, Brady. I was stalling. I don't believe you've met my husband. Spider-Man, Brady. Brady, the amazing Spider-Man.
Hi, honey.
Stop. You're both under arrest.
Coming at the end of an era, To Have and to Hold is equal parts beautiful and bittersweet. By the time the story hit shelves, Marvel's editors were already moving ahead with the reset of the title, and the Parkers' split was all but inevitable. Fraction and LaRocca couldn't undo what had been done, but they could give the couple one last moment together worthy of their relationship. The story's last tearful reunion atop the Empire State Building is both a sensational love letter and an incredibly nuanced, beautiful look at relationships. To Have and to Hold doesn't make the case that love is easy. In fact, it argues the opposite. Love is a never-ending pendulum swinging between tragedy and triumph. But when you find someone who understands you and is willing to endure the good with the bad, you can build a love that outlasts anything.
This is our life.
Yeah. You and me. Forever and always.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for checking out my video on To Have and to Hold. I've wanted to make something on this story for a while, and with Valentine's Day, it only seemed right to revisit this. Let me know if there are any comics out there that you really love. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and spread the love for your fellow geeks.